What if the reason humans built cities, fought wars and created medicine can be traced in the DNA of animals? Here are 10 secrets that prove it. The story of humanity is often told as a solitary march of progress, but this view is profoundly incomplete. Our journey has been shaped by the silent, powerful influence of the animal kingdom. Today we will unravel this extraordinary connection. Stay with me until the very end. The final secret is perhaps the most profound of all. Prepare to see the world not as a human stage but as a shared ecosystem, a tangled web of life where every thread matters. Our story begins not with a roar but with a gentle hum. It is the sound of the bee, a creature whose influence on our civilization is as vast as it is overlooked. The intricate dance between bee and blossom is one of nature's most vital partnerships. Fruits, vegetables, nuts. The scale of this operation is almost beyond comprehension. Their DNA contains the blueprint for this behavior, a set of instructions honed over millions of years. As human populations began to settle, we unknowingly entered into this ancient pact. Where bee populations were diverse and healthy, our fledgling crops thrived. The yields were greater, the harvest more reliable. Flowers evolved brighter colors, more alluring scents, and sweeter nectar to attract their preferred pollinators. In turn, humans began to select and cultivate the plants that were most successful. We were following the bees' lead, allowing their genetic predispositions to guide our agricultural revolution. A world fed is a world ready to build. But to create the very first towns and cities, we needed more than sustenance. We needed protection assistance and something entirely new: companionship. From the wild, a predator emerged, not to threaten our ancestors but to join them. The journey of the wolf to the dog. A transformation that rewrote the social DNA of both species. Not simple taming, a profound biological partnership. Attuned to our commands, attuned to our emotions, attuned to our way of life. Dogs made humans better hunters. Keen sense of smell, superior speed to track and corner prey. Beyond hunting, vigilant sentinels with protective instincts guarding camps. In the north they became engines, enabling transport and trade across frozen territories. Canine companions reshaped settlements. Communities with dogs were more successful and expandable. Dogs exchanged between groups, forged alliances. Dogs bridged families and tribes, adding complexity to social structures. Caring for dogs changed us. It nurtured empathy, responsibility, interspecies communication. Dogs became family, companions in a lonely world, the first and perhaps deepest interspecies bond, woven into myths, woven into art, woven into daily life. They taught alliance beyond bloodlines. Dogs helped small bands become fortified settlements. To go further, to connect and build empires, humans needed new power. An animal to carry supplies and ambitions. From fireside companions we moved to the beast of cavalry and continental speed. If the dog helped us build communities, it was the horse that allowed us to connect them and to conquer them. The domestication of the horse was not simply taming, it was accelerated evolution, guided by human hands, speed, endurance, temperament. We transformed a wild steppe animal into a living engine of conquest and trade. The impact on warfare was immediate and absolute. A warrior on horseback was a force multiplier, possessing speed, height, and momentum that a foot soldier could never match. Empires like the Mongols swept across vast territories with breathtaking speed. Mounted archers redrew the maps of Asia and Europe. Borders that had seemed permanent crumbled before them. Beyond the battlefield, the horse revolutionized the speed of communication and commerce. Before its arrival, trade was slow and limited by walking or oxen. With horses, goods, ideas, and information could travel at unprecedented rate. The Silk Road was powered by the stamina of horses and camels, silk, spices, philosophies. The world began to feel smaller and more connected. This mobility had profound social and genetic consequences. Isolated populations began to mix. The horse carried not only goods but also genes across continents. Owning a fine horse became the symbol of wealth and power. Speed, power, reach. It allowed empires to emerge and the world to connect. But empires need more than speed, they need fuel and calories. The power we gained on the hoof was instrumental, but it was the animal that provided sustenance for humanity to multiply. As human societies grew larger and more complex, they required a new kind of fuel. The horse had given us reach, but it was the humble cow that gave us density. The domestication of cattle represents one of the most significant turning points in our biological history. This story is written not just in our history books but deep within our own DNA. For most of human history, the ability to digest milk is lost after infancy, but in populations that herded cattle, a remarkable genetic mutation occurred. This mutation, known as lactase persistence, allowed adults to continue producing the enzyme needed to break down lactose. This genetic trait co-evolved directly with the practice of dairy farming. Milk became a clean source of water, a rich supply of fat and protein available year-round. This intense, selective pressure caused the gene to spread rapidly through dairy farming populations. The availability of this calorie-dense food source had a profound demographic impact. It supported larger families and denser populations than agriculture alone ever could. Artisans, soldiers, priests. Rulers could be supported by the agricultural backbone provided by grain and the rich nutritional supplement from cattle. Furthermore, cattle fundamentally reshaped our relationship with the land. The concept of wealth itself became tied to the ownership of livestock. In many societies, cattle were the primary measure of riches, used as currency, dowries, sacrificial offerings. The cow was not just a source of food, it was a catalyst for genetic change and a force that structured our growing societies. But as our settlements swelled into crowded cities, a new set of challenges emerged. As human settlements evolved into sprawling, densely packed cities, the challenge of feeding the population became acute. The pastoral model of cattle farming required vast lands, something increasingly scarce around major urban centers. Thrive in close quarters, consume a wide variety of food and provide rapid, reliable protein. Into this niche stepped the pig. The pig's remarkable reproductive rate was key to its success. A sow can produce 2 large litters a year. They were a living larder, transforming urban waste into essential calories, supporting the labor force that built the cities. However, this close proximity came with a significant and often deadly cost. The pig's physiology is remarkably similar to our own, making it an ideal vessel for diseases that can jump the species barrier. The practice of keeping pigs within city limits created a perfect breeding ground for zoonotic pathogens, including influenza viruses. The smell, waste, and noise generated by urban pig farming became a major concern for city planners. This led to some of the first public health regulations and zoning laws. The pig was not just in the city, it was an integral part of its economic and administrative machinery. It provided the protein that powered our workers, but also introduced epidemiological risk that we are still grappling with. We have now reached the halfway point in our journey, having seen how animals shaped our food, our communities, and our cities. If this is blowing your mind, hit like and subscribe now. And tell us in the comments which animal shocked you most. But the story takes a darker turn, as we explore creatures whose existence has been a catalyst for disease and despair. The second half delves even deeper, revealing hidden forces that have shaped our world in ways you've never imagined. Not all animals that have shaped our destiny have been partners. Some have been our adversaries, tiny antagonists whose impact is measured in millions of lives lost. None have been more devastating than the mosquito. This fragile insect possesses a genetic arsenal that has allowed it to become the deadliest animal in the world. It is this act of feeding that has rewritten human history. The mosquito itself is merely a vector. The true culprits are the pathogens it carries. The protozoan that causes malaria, the virus that causes yellow fever, and dozens of others. These mosquito-borne diseases have toppled armies and collapsed civilizations. The fall of the Roman Empire has been partly attributed to a devastating malaria epidemic that swept through the city. Campaigns of would-be conquerors from Alexander the Great to Napoleon were halted not by enemy swords, but by debilitating fevers delivered by this insect. European powers attempting to penetrate Africa were met with a wall of disease, what they called the white man's grave. The construction of the Panama Canal was only made possible after a brutal war was waged against local mosquito populations. This relentless pressure forced humanity to innovate. The fight against mosquito-borne illness spurred breakthroughs in public health. The discovery that mosquitoes were vectors was a paradigm shift in our understanding of epidemiology. The draining of swamps, the use of insecticides, and the development of preventative medicines like quinine. The study of vector genetics is now a front line of medical research, as we seek to alter the mosquito's own DNA to render it harmless. The mosquito is a stark reminder that the most powerful forces in nature are not always the largest. While this airborne vector reshaped history from the tropics, another, more terrestrial pest, was rewriting the rules of global trade and urban life. In the shadow of our progress, another creature thrived. It is an animal that has followed us to every corner of the globe, a stowaway on our ships and a resident of our cities, the rat. Genetically programmed for survival, the rat is a master of opportunism. Its rapid breeding cycle, its ability to eat almost anything, and its innate neophobia make it incredibly resilient. As humanity built its trade networks, we inadvertently created a superhighway for these rodents, and for the devastation they would bring. The rat's most infamous role in human history is as the vessel for the Black Death. While the rat itself does not cause plague, the fleas that infest it do. The Black Death wiped out as much as half of Europe's population, fundamentally altering Western civilization. The recurring waves of plague forced a revolution in our thinking about cities and sanitation. It is a creature that thrives in our shadow, a constant reminder of the fragility of our systems. Not all insects have been our adversaries. One in particular has been the source of immense wealth, the silk moth, Bombyx mori. This unassuming larva performs a remarkable feat of biological engineering. It produces a single, continuous protein thread from its salivary glands and wraps it around itself to form a cocoon. Unravel that thread and you get silk, a fabric so luxurious it launched an industry and financed empires. That demand created the Silk Road. More than a road, an expanding web connecting east and west. One gene, one protein filament spun an economic superhighway. A single biological trait produced world-altering economic consequences. In the 20th century, humanity embarked on its most ambitious quest, to conquer disease and understand the very code of life. The revolution in medicine would have been impossible without two of our oldest neighbors, mouse and rat. Their genetics are a Rosetta Stone for human biology. We share roughly 85% of our protein coding genes. That genetic parallel means mice can develop human-like diseases: cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, heart disease. Nearly every major medical breakthrough of the past century owes a debt to these small creatures. Genetic engineering has made the lab mouse even more powerful, creating knockout mice and inserting human genes for more accurate models. In the latter half of the 20th century, the world's population exploded. This unprecedented growth presented an immense challenge. The answer came from an animal we had known for millennia, the chicken. Originally a jungle fowl from Southeast Asia, it became the cornerstone of the global food system. The revolution was driven by intense selective breeding, focusing on two key genetic pathways, one for egg production, one for meat. For eggs, they created breeds that could produce nearly an egg a day. For meat, they bred broilers with genes for rapid growth. Prices fell dramatically, making them the most affordable animal protein on the planet. Cheap poultry fueled growing urban populations and improved nutrition for hundreds of millions. Industrial-scale poultry farming with uniform flocks became the model for agribusiness. It's a success story that also raises questions about animal welfare, genetic diversity, and sustainability of our food systems. The chicken's journey from Asian jungle to global supermarket shows our power to reshape life. So what is the great secret that ties all of these stories together? It is not merely that animals have influenced us, but that our histories are not separate things, they are one and the same. The DNA of the bee contains the blueprint for our agriculture. The genes of the dog are woven into the fabric of our first societies. The genomes of the horse, the cow, and the chicken were the raw material from which we built our empires and fed our cities. Even the mosquito and the rat, our adversaries, have forced us to become smarter, cleaner, and more resilient. Our journey is a story of co-evolution. We have shaped their DNA through domestication and selective breeding, and in turn, their DNA has shaped our societies, our bodies, and our very destiny. This profound realization changes how we must view our place in the world. We are not above nature, but an integral part of its intricate web. The challenges we face today, from new pandemics to climate change and food security, are all rooted in this complex relationship. Understanding this shared history is not just academic, it is essential for our survival. The future of humanity depends on our ability to manage this relationship with wisdom, foresight, and deep respect for the biological systems that sustain us. The story of life is a shared story, written in the universal language of DNA. Here at Primero Pitch, we are dedicated to exploring these deep connections that define our world. If you want to continue this journey with us, to uncover the hidden stories that shape our reality, then I invite you to become a member. By joining, you support our mission to bring these vital narratives to light and gain access to exclusive content that delves even deeper. The link is in the description below. Thank you for watching.